raise that bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and I am pumped. I'm pumped. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Tim Ohashi, and Tim is basically the head video guy, we'll call it, just for lack of better terms, but the head video coach for the Seattle Kraken. So first time I've had anybody on from Seattle, expansion team in the NHL. Pretty exciting, but I was fortunate. I got to meet Tim probably 5-6 years ago now in Washington when Tim was one of the video coaches there. So Tim, welcome to Behind the Gear, and how is everything going with you? How are you doing?
It's going well. It's my first time doing a video podcast, so pretty jacked up for that. Couldn't have asked for a better host.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. All right, well, podcast is over. See everyone later. Talk to you later.
To give some perspective, as you alluded to, we were kind of overlapped for I think 5 or 6 years there, both working with Washington. And first time I was introduced to you, I was okay. Here's Dwayne Blaze, Blazer. He's skills coach, skating coach, does it all. Now he's a video guru. He's coming for my job, etc. But like an idiot, I was told his name was Blazer, and so I called him Dwayne Blaze, which I don't know if you've already previewed your name in the intro here, but that's apparently not how you say your name. So such a nice guy that didn't correct me saying his name wrong for half a decade.
Well, I mean,
just
yeah.
glad I finally know there's a bit of francophone in you.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. It's funny because when Tim and I were going back and forth on text over this podcast, he's like, do you want to do it in French or do you want to do it in English? So Tim was going to brush up on his French and fire this out in French. But yeah, my name kind of took on a bit of a different pronunciation, kind of moving from Northern Ontario, where there's a lot of French, to like Southern Ontario, then to the States. And I just got tired of correcting it. And Blazer sounds kind of cool when you're skating and you know what I mean, you're blazing around the ice. So I was like, you know what, I'll just leave it the way it is. But I normally introduce myself as Dwayne Blair, and then people just go with it however they do, and that's it is what it is. So it's all right though. It's okay. And in the hockey world, I think, you know, as far as nicknames, everyone's going to kind of fire a nickname to you. So Blazer was just kind of an easy nickname, and then everyone just assumes your last name's Blaze because your nickname's Blazer. So that's kind of how that whole thing played out. But yeah. So Tim, now you're obviously in Seattle now. What was the whole move like, first of all, through this whole weird pandemic that we're going through? Was it hard to like get across country? Was it not too bad? Was it pretty seamless, or?
It was stressful.
Yeah.
It maybe wasn't as bad as we thought it would be, but it was still as stressful as we thought it would be. So I ended up getting hired October 1st. I started with Seattle, and just because of where we are, we're not playing games until next fall. Pandemic's going on. Obviously, the start of the season was delayed. All that they kind of told me, hey, if you can be out in the area sort of by around New Year's, we're fine. You don't have to rush right out here, which was great. It gave us a couple of months to kind of get our ducks in a row and, you know, figure out movers, how to get our cars out there, all of that. But, you know, we'd been like most people in the area, we've been sort of cooped up in our apartment, not really going anywhere except for the essential needs, you know, the grocery store, the dentist, that kind of thing. Other than that, it was, you know, you get your daily exercise by going outside, masked up and all that. But, so going to an airport was definitely a new experience. And we were double masked for the face shield, like biggest face. I almost called the equipment guys in Wash asking for, you know, the full broken jaw kind of gear. Didn't happen. We just had to get the old plastic visor, but yeah. It wasn't too bad, and we're lucky because Nicole's family's from out here. So right now, actually, we're still trying to figure out our full-time housing situation. So we're in in-laws basement right now, but could be worse setups. Rent is great.
Yeah, totally. You got the family discount rent. That's good.
Friends and family discount. Yeah. It's been real generous so far.
Perfect. And when the in-laws ask you for rent, just like, man, it's COVID. Like, come on, this is crazy. You can't ask for rent right now. Rent relief.
Pandemic pricing right now. So
that's it.
You know, we mix in a couple of meals cooked every week, and they have to suffer through our food, and everybody comes out a loser in this.
Perfect. You know, it's funny though, when you think of coaching in the minors or anywhere, especially college, maybe a little bit safer at times, but like especially pro. there's going to be some movement going around, right? And I know when you got to Washington, you were there for quite a while. Did you ever think that at one point, one day, you're probably going to have to potentially apply for a job to become a head guy, maybe, or maybe something would have opened up in Washington, and but you never know, right? When you go into a situation. So were you kind of prepared to like make that move wherever you kind of had to, if there was a job that kind of popped up? Was that something that was kind of on the back of your mind a little bit, as far as just, this is the kind of industry I'm in right now, and hopefully I can have a longevity or a long stay at a spot, but if not, I'm going to have to probably move somewhere.
Exactly. I think it's something that it's always on your mind. I remember my first year in Washington, I was an intern, and coming up on, in the middle of the season, we had a player get traded, and I remember walking by into the meal room to grab lunch, and the player just found out he got dealt and literally had tears in his eye. I mean, I grew up watching the game. I grew up playing fantasy hockey, playing the video games. Like, you act like you're a GM and you just try and move guys willy-nilly, and it really makes it real how it's like you're not just trading a guy one jersey for another. You're talking about his family moving, new schools for the kids, it's a stressful experience. I just went through it without, a bigger family, without kids and all that, and even for us, it was still a lot of stress, and that just really cemented sort of, the reminder. You always hear it, sort of cliche, but it's a business, and you learn that very quickly, I think, being around it. So you kind of know that, I worked for coaches that were, they came and they went, and players that came and they went. So it becomes very real that there's a bit of fleeting nature to pro hockey, and you never know how long it's going to last in one place or another. So you always have it in the back of your mind that I need to be open to going other places. I need to be ready. I need to keep the resume polished up, because at a moment's notice, they could tell you they're no longer interested in you working for them. So, with that being said, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area. I grew up watching that team, so it was pretty cool. It was special to work for my hometown team. It certainly wasn't the kind of situation where I was just looking to get out of there any chance I could. The first head coach I worked for was Barry Trotz, who notably, helped start and sort of be a foundational piece in that Nashville process. And he had just raved to me for years about expansion and how cool it is. And so when the Seattle opportunity came up, the combination of, how highly he spoke of being part of that expansion process, the fact that my fiance is from the Seattle area, it was a perfect storm. And then just for my own career development, the chance to be a one to, grow and expand and do more was super appealing and attractive. So I'd say all the stars just kind of aligned. It wasn't like I'd previously been going out there every summer just clawing and trying to get any job I could. This one, just everything lined up perfect, and I was really lucky how it worked out.
Oh, that's cool, man. And I know, the stars align, and it's kind of a good situation and a great city to go to because you have family close, which is awesome. But I mean, those kind of opportunities, they do come up once in a while, but at the end of the day, you got to be prepared for them. And I think the one thing that I can say, just having been around you a limited time as far as coming in for a weekend or a week and being around you and obviously the staff in Washington, I mean, you guys work hard, and there's clearly, you had a lot of people in your corner, probably didn't want to see you go, but it's a great opportunity for you and don't want to hold you back. But at the same time, you were more than prepared to take this on and to kind of, get your own thing, which I think is, obviously you kind of create opportunity by how hard you work and what type of person you are and how you, kind of blend with the other coaching staffs. And you've had a couple different coaching staffs come in, which clearly you've, made a good impression on a lot of different people, which I think is huge. Now for you going in as kind of the number one now, is it a little bit, and I know it's weird for you guys because you're not starting until next year, so you're kind of in the prep stage, which is probably nice just to get your feet wet and kind of, learn how things are going to operate as far as just the organization. But you don't have a coach yet. So for you, is it a little bit kind of, I'm sure there's a lot of unknown, right? Like, I don't know what he's going to want video wise. I don't know if he's, one of those type A video coaches who wants all the video that he can get, or if he's maybe a little bit more laid back and isn't, wants video obviously, but not, to a crazy extent. So how do you prepare for that kind of going in there? Are you just kind of doing as much as you can to have whatever he needs or, kind of ready for him?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you've been around it. Hockey's such a game of routines. Like every day, every scout's a little bit different, but in terms of the routine, you kind of get used to the schedules and the timeliness. And that's such a big thing in hockey, in the hockey world. And so to not really have a set of systems and processes in place already and kind of come in fresh and just be told, okay, like, figure it out, like, do it the way you want to do it. It's awesome because you get a blank sheet, but it's also intimidating in a way because you can't rely on, well, here's how it was done. It's you really have to find a way to justify the work you're doing and why you're doing it that way. And like you said, not knowing if you're going to, there's some head coaches in the league that just live on their computers and want as much video as possible. And, if they couldn't sleep, they wouldn't. And there's other guys who are, a little bit on the other end of it. Everybody uses it, but it's enough's enough. And, I have interests and hobbies outside of sitting in front of my laptop that, you don't know what you're going to get. And I've been around coaches on both ends of the spectrum, but I'm preparing heavy right now. And if I get a coach who comes in and says, well, I don't need all of that, well, I don't think it's the worst first impression to have too much.
Right.
I'd rather be on that end rather than too little. And, but like you said, like the terminology I use is probably going to differ a little bit. Like whether I call it no zone entry or line rush 4 or something else, we might not be exactly on the same page in lingo. And that's something we'll pick up, and you kind of develop that chemistry and rapport over time. And it's easy. And hey, just so you know, I labeled all of these forechecks or breakouts, and you might call the breakouts puck retrieval. So that's an easy switch. We'll sync up all of our lingo and terminology, but just so you know, whatever team you're looking for, okay, here's 400 breakouts, and here's what they're trying to do. And as long as it's there, we can kind of tighten up and get on the same page and make sure we're together on all that. But I just want to be able to have a wealth of data and video when that coach does get hired and that coaching staff is hired. I'm not scrambling. Okay, well, let me go back and grab all that for you. I have a good set where, my goal is on day one, the first time I meet that coach, I can hand him a computer and say, hey, here's your computer. And, by the way, X, Y, and Z video is on here. Like, let's hit the ground running.
Yeah. No, that's huge, man. Yeah. And it's got to be so refreshing for whoever does get hired there to know that there's someone behind the scenes kind of doing a little bit of that due diligence or that work behind the scenes. Cause right now you say like you're gathering video, and just for people that don't know, like, and I want to get into this a little bit more in the nuts and bolts as we move forward, but like a lot of people don't know what a video coach is, right? A lot of people watch the game on Hockey Night in Canada or NBC or whatever it is, and they just say, oh, they call the video coach to see if the goal is allowed or disallowed, or, but there's so much more that goes into it, obviously. So for you right now preparing, I'm assuming that you're clipping, whoever it is, let's say Vancouver's breakout, Vancouver's power play, and, I'm assuming a lot of the teams, but just clipping a lot of their tendencies and their structures in order to have that in a bank, basically for the coaching staff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I've been, I guess the workflow is a little bit different because when you're in a season playing games, you have a strong focus. We're playing San Jose on Thursday. I better be watching San. There's no reason for me to watch Buffalo if we're not playing them for 3 months.
Right.
Right now, because we don't have a schedule, we don't have opponents, I have a little bit more leeway in terms of, I've been kind of picking and choosing, like, okay, like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, that could be a fun one. Like, yeah, let me watch that one. I'm not going to name names, but there's certain teams that, you can say, hey, maybe go get a coffee because this one might be a little bit, a bit of a snoozer.
For sure.
And there's other times, or somebody's just on fire, and you're like, oh, Matthews has got 18 and 18, and like, let's see what's going on there. Yeah. Probably going to get, of course, you turn it on, he doesn't get one. You're like, okay, well, I get a lot of those 2-1 games between the highest scoring teams for some reason. But, either I can watch it live or I can just download it after and break it down on my computer. And then I'm looking at everything from team structure. So, okay, well, what kind of neutral zone forecheck structure are they going to use? Are they a 1-2-2? Are they a 1-1-3? A 1-3? And then I'm looking at what they're doing. And then also based on that, let's say it's Vancouver and Calgary or whatever. Well, what's Calgary doing well against Vancouver? Because they're doing certain things that you go, that seems like a good game plan, whether it's intentional or not, that maybe that's something for us moving forward that we could look at using and all over the ice. So it's, okay, this is their defensive zone coverage. Well, what kind of O-zone play is working against that? And then you're also looking at individual players. Maybe there's a young player like Niels Hoglander, who I don't know super well. Haven't seen him a lot in the past. Well, what kind of player is he? I want to have that kind of information in my head. Is he looking to make high skill plays? Is he looking for real clever, crafty stuff? Is he a guy that's just going to chip and chase? Is he going to try and attack your D-man one-on-one? Because those are the kind of questions you sometimes get at 5:30 before a game. Matt Niskanen used to come up to me in the locker room before a lot of games, and he'd been in the league a long time, a lot longer than me, knew pretty much all the guys. But hey, like, what's this guy's story? Is he fast? Is he slow? Is he going to try and beat me with wide speed? Is he going to try and, dangle right through me? And you try and give him a sense of what his tendency is, but you never know. Every guy does a little bit of everything. Certain guys chip the puck in a little bit more. Certain guys challenge it one-on-one more. But if he's facing Miles Wood for the first time, I want to give him a little bit of a heads up. Like, hey, this guy's got some burners.
Yeah.
Like, he is going to try and drive it right by you, that you got to be ready to go here.
Yeah.
Versus some other guys. Everybody can beat you, but maybe that's not number one in your head when you see certain guys coming down the ice.
No, you bring up a good point that I want to touch on quick, but with NHL and the amount of video and the amount of data that you can pull up on players, you can get a pretty good idea of what style of player this player is going to be. Like, for instance, a Miles Wood is probably going to not try to put it through your legs and beat you around. He's going to probably try to make a move and go wide or cut to the middle and use his speed. So with the amount of video that you have on players, you can get a good feel for what type of player they are. And I think for young kids, this is one thing we stress with them a lot is play within your box. But then every once in a while, like, try to continue developing more deception or shoot first mentality. When, like, Marner, for instance, is always a pass first guy. Well, this year's trying to shoot more, and he's catching some goalies off guard because he's shooting the puck a little bit more. And, so expanding that box, because to your point, if Miles Wood all of a sudden has been working on a couple of moves that actually do work with his speed, where he can slow up, change speeds, and then go, which he doesn't normally do, he can catch a Niskanen or somebody like that off guard a little bit, where they're not sure. So for young kids, just kind of expanding that box a little bit, being good at what you're good at, but then, because there is so much, as you get up levels, when you go to junior, same thing, there's tons of video, and then you get to the pro leagues. I mean, there's crazy amount of video. So, and you guys, and guys in your role, you guys are on this. I remember when I used to go to Washington, I always talk to you and Stretch just about, hey, what do you see if I'm working with so-and-so on the ice that day? Hey, what do you see? Because I talk to the coaches obviously all the time, but you guys watch so much video. And you always give me good pointers on, hey, he tends to be bad on his backhand side, or he tends to dust the puck off quickly before he makes a pass. So okay, great, I can address those little things, because it is crazy the tendencies that you can pick up on players. I'm sure there's some players that you think of right now in your head that you're like, I kind of know exactly what he's going to do 9 times out of 10 when he's got the puck, right?
There's one player in the league. I won't say who it is, but he does the exact same shootout move every time, and he always goes in the top 30. And
really?
He scores way more often than he goes 5-hole every time on the ice. And every time he comes on, I say, they should put me in net, because I would just 2-pad stack and just lie on the ice, and he won't shoot it anywhere else. And it just blows my mind that he continues to have success.
Yeah.
Because, and I've come to the realization that I think it's like a reverse psychology type thing, where he knows that the goalie knows, right, that I always do this. So the goalie's like, he can't keep getting away with it. He's going to change it up. And you don't want to be the one guy that gets beat by something different. So you wait, and you're overly patient, and then it beats you. Yeah. And but to get to your point, deception is one of my favorite things in the game to watch. That's something that growing up, I didn't hear. I followed the game. I loved the game. I didn't play at a high level or anything, but I was, around the game as much as I could. And it just wasn't something that your average color commentator or intermission analyst talks about a whole lot. They talked about, this team needs to get more shots on net. They're not winning the puck battle. I mean, it tends to be relatively generic stuff and kind of the same cliches a lot of the time. That the deception is such an important detail of the game, especially as you get to higher levels, because everybody's good. And like you said, everybody's done their homework nowadays, that it's hard to catch teams off guard, that if you're a player that really favors your forehand and rarely ever go to your backhand, defensemen are going to cheat on that. Goalies are going to cheat on that, because it's a game of numbers, and you got to play the percentages to a certain point, that once you can incorporate those improbable things, it's just such a big advantage. Like you said, the Marner one's a great example. There's other players, or even if it's just looking like Connor McDavid the other day, an unbelievable goal. He's looking past. Yeah. It's in the back of the net against a pretty good goalie. Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, I agree. It's funny, man. I'm doing a presentation coming up here. And I'm going to call it like the great skill of deception, because deception was never considered a skill in hockey. Like, as of the last 5-10 years, no one talked about working on deception in practice, really. You just had kids that had it or didn't have it. Like a Mitch Marner has deception. He had it. If you gave him a basketball, he'd look passes off and shoot, or look shots off and pass. Like he's got that. It's innate, right? And I think nowadays you can teach kids how to become more deceptive, and it's such a big part of the game. And I mean, being with Washington for as long as you have been, I mean, you had a couple, defining deception guys like Backstrom and guys like Kuznetsov, who just are so, even Ohashi, like they're so good at just looking little things off and making little plays, moving a stick across or moving a stick over to make that pass through. And
I totally agree with you. It's such a predominant part of the game. And you look at these young kids that are coming in, like these Hugheses and these Makars and even Hoagland, and these young kids that are coming in, and how good they are at that whole piece of the game, right? That whole deceptive piece of the game. And it's it's really cool. It'll be really interesting to see how it continues to evolve, because a guy like McDavid kind of, he kind of exemplifies deception. Obviously, almost every time he's carrying the puck, he's looking some other way, and I think there's a lot of guys in the league like that, no doubt, but it is so cool to see the game trending that way, and seeing kind of what's going to come next in the next wave of young guys.
Yeah. The other thing going on that, I think it's easy to get sucked into this idea that deception is an offensive thing and it's a high skill thing. And you see the clips of McDavid and a guy like Mitch Marner or Cale Makar walking the blue line, and those are all unbelievable and they're awesome, and they end up on TSN because they turn into goals. But like, there's not a lot of things that jack me up, like a third pair defenseman going back for a puck, triple shoulder checking, and showing deception that he's going to wheel the net, and then bumping it back up the strong side wall and sucking in 2 forecheckers just 2 feet over. And now his partner's got that extra 3 feet to execute, because that's all you need at the highest level. You give a defenseman 3 extra feet to execute a breakout pass, and he's going to do it 80%, 90% of the time. That's the difference between a guy getting run through the glass and you going the other way on a 3-on-2 rush. And so I think that's an important thing that doesn't get talked about enough. That deception is with the puck, without the puck, on defense, on offense. Like, it's not just, I'm going to 2-on-1 and I'm going to no-look shoot this, or I'm going to fake shot and slide it over to my left wing. There's a lot of cool, I love seeing defensemen just creating that little bit of, just helping your teammate out, because it's a six men on the ice at the time, or 6 women on the ice at a time. That those little things that you can do to help out your team are awesome.
I love that you said that. I think that is because, and the other thing too, a lot of times, coaches are like, well, you can't really teach deception. You either have it or you don't. And I don't agree with that. I think you can teach a third pair defenseman how to just manipulate their blade so they open it up, show and pass, and they slide it across or whatever. And like you said, those are the little things that create a little bit of time and space. And I totally agree. I love that you said that, because I think it's so huge. And I think it starts at young ages. And if the young ages can get that foundation in them to begin, then as they get up and older, then that's the part of their game that they can continue to polish, but they've already got a little bit of a foundation there, which I think is huge. And I totally agree with you. I love that stuff. And I love seeing even a little chip play on the wall in the D zone, which goes uncovered. No one really sees it. No one really talks about it, but man, it was a sick little shoulder check, reverse hit, created some space, moved the puck. Like, just little things like that I think are big parts of the game within the game that aren't highlighted, unfortunately, but are, man, they're huge, and they separate players,
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I broke down a Vancouver game recently, and I was showing some of my colleagues, kind of walking them through over a Zoom meeting, sort of like, okay, what's my workflow? Because they, like you said, they didn't have a great understanding of what a video coach does or how you break down a game. And so I had, 100 clips from the game, and I was kind of walking them through, okay, here's this face-off I clipped because of this. And, you can see they're sending 2 guys here, they're sending 1 guy, or whatever it may be. And here's what the other team's doing to counter it. But my favorite clip from the game was a clip of Nate Schmidt, a player who I was around for a couple of years. You've been around him, like, super high energy, just a fun guy to be around. And it's awesome because I can picture him in the clip, but he's going back for a breakout, and the habits are unbelievable. Like, it's shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. He reads the forecheck. The guy over his left shoulder, he sees, you can tell, he goes for a line change off the chip, and he knows now that strong side of the ice is open.
Yeah.
He turns his feet like he's going to wheel, acts like it, sells it with his shoulder dip, and then he puts it up the strong side wall, and then they're just going the other way, and they've got all kinds of time. Whereas if he had gone through the net, he would have been run through the boards by the right winger. They're like, he just slid the puck up the wall. Like, what does that tell you? I said, I was around nature. He was going back to the bench after that, jacked up. He used to just scream like, development camp, training, like, clip that one. And he just had that kind of energy. And he's a guy that, habits and deception were something that were talked about a lot in Washington. And he really embraced it and embodied it. And I think that's one of the reasons he developed, and such a impact player in this league.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's really cool. Now let's go to that. So how did you get involved in this? So you've been with Washington for a bunch of years now with Seattle, going back to kind of, a younger Timmy here, but athletic, involved, love the sports. I know you're big into baseball and a lot of different sports.
Let me stop you right there. Not athletic. I appreciate you pumping my tires.
Well, I mean, you played hockey. I mean,
skating
on knife blades is not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, come on, you got some athleticism to you.
I was probably a better soccer player and a better baseball player than hockey. So to wind it way back, I started playing soccer when I was like 3 years old. I started playing on my brother's team. He's 3 years older than me. I just loved the game. I was the kid that was at every practice, just running on the sidelines with my own ball. And eventually I ended up enrolling and playing a year up when I finally was able to. So I started soccer from I think I was 3 or 4 years old when I started playing on a competitive team.
Yeah.
I mean, competitive.
Yeah.
It's 4-year-olds, like a horde of bees walking around a ball.
But even playing up at that age, we do call that exceptional status in Canada. Okay. So you had exceptional status, granted. All right. I got it.
I was probably one of the first to get exceptional status in the U.S. So I was pretty athletic, I guess.
Oh yeah, see.
But hockey, just so like I said earlier, I grew up in the DC area. Hockey, this is the early '90s now. Hockey wasn't what it is now. Like, it existed, the Caps were around, but this is a decade and a half before Ovechkin came to town and really kind of lit a fire into the city in terms of the passion for it. That rinks were few and far between. Ice time was really hard to get. That it was the kind of thing where it was like, well, if you want to play on a team, like, it's going to be 5 o'clock practice before school, and it just didn't work logistically. Like, my mom was like, sorry, like, I know you'd love to play, but this is, you can go to soccer practice after school and you can still have a normal life and we can get you. Like, hockey just didn't work out in terms of the logistics. So I just played, baseball, soccer, sort of more typical normal sports. But every day when I'd get home from school or get home from practice or whatever it was, I was on the driveway, I was on the rollerblades, just shooting pucks, skating around the neighborhood, stick handling, doing whatever I could. And then at night I was watching every game I could on TV. So I was just absolutely in love and infatuated with the sport, but just didn't play a lot growing up, just, outside of in the neighborhood, nothing organized. And, fast forward a bunch of years, we're going to jump. It was now 2014, which is the year Barry Trotz got hired to Washington as the head coach. He's coming from Nashville. He was in Nashville's always, they've been a bit of a video factory over the last decade where they've got unbelievable head video coach there, Lawrence, that he's pumped out his sort of number twos. A lot of his proteges are around the league now as number ones elsewhere, in Boston, in Edmonton, elsewhere. That Barry is coming kind of from this perspective that his video coaches, his video staff were a huge part of, the role of the coaching staff there. And he was used to leaning on multiple people and the video demands were high. That right before the season started, Stretch kind of realized, I think, that, this is more of a two-person. Like, Barry's used to a two-person workflow, and I'm just one guy right now, so I'm going to need some help. I was in a sport management program at Georgetown University, and one of the things they really pushed on and emphasized was network as much as you can. Get your foot in the door. Get an internship if you can. So I'd applied for all these internships that I saw posted on the Caps website, community relations, PR, game entertainment, whatever. Like, I was willing to put the mascot head on and try and do a cartwheel, whatever it was. I just wanted to get a foot in the door. Like, it's just so hard. And I got a couple interviews, a couple departments told me I was a runner up, but nobody picked me. So I was kind of, I kind of slunk back home, and I was kind of, you're sad. You thought, maybe just get a foot in the door and say you work for the team in any capacity would have excited me.
Sure.
And then, like, one night before training camp started, I had a missed phone call on my phone. I listened to the voicemail with Stretch, and he said, hey, like, kind of got your resume. Because I blindly just sent my resume to as many people in the organization that I could and just said, hey, here's who I am. Here's my skill set. I'd love to help out in any way I can. And said, hey, would you be okay to come in for an interview tomorrow? So I went in, we talked for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes. And I think 2 days later, I started training camp, and I interned for the whole year. I just got to be a fly on the wall, an absolute sponge, pick guys' brains, be a part of it, help out where I could, and just try and grow my role. And at the end of that 1 year, they came to me and basically said, are you interested in sticking around if we create a full-time role for you? I said, absolutely. And
that's awesome.
The rest was history.
That's so cool, man. And I think that's one of the things too that I try to really push this with the kind of younger generation going through finishing high school, college, and then university, wherever they are. It doesn't matter if it's college or university but don't be afraid to put that foot forward. Don't be afraid to spray an office with resumes and follow up with phone calls and be, if you really want something, you know what I mean? And yeah, I think it's such a big part because a lot of people, myself included, you get a little bit tentative sometimes, maybe a little bit shy. And you're like, I don't want to bug them, or oh my God, I've already sent them 2 resumes. I don't want to, but I think it's really important to do that and kind of stay relevant if that's what you're really passionate about doing. Now, when you got the role as video coach, so you went from, potentially applying to become the Capitals mascot to, no, I'm kidding, but to video coach. Now, when you got the role as video coach, like, did you know their software? Did you have any idea of how to cut a game or edit a game or like that? Or were you going in pretty green?
Yeah, I was pretty green. Like, I had a base level of, I'm not going to say I'm a hockey, I was a hockey expert at the time, but, I wasn't coming in blind to the sport. Like, I had a base understanding of, basic systems. And I wasn't an expert on exactly what Washington was doing, but I had the requisite level of knowledge that they could say, okay, like, this is our 1-1-3 right side lock. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Right.
Cool. And then, the nuances are, well, okay, today we're going to adjust to be a little bit more aggressive with this guy. Well, why? Those nuances were the thing that were a little bit more of a learning curve for me. Yeah. In terms of the video, no, they used a program called Sports Code there. Great program, really powerful, all kinds of tools. Basically, you can create, they call it a code window, which is basically like a custom keyboard for watching video. So every time you click a button or a combination of buttons, it creates a video clip based on that. So whether you want to just clip a breakout or you want to create a face-off, but also add some info, like maybe you want to create a face-off, but ascribe some information and say that this player lost the face-off or this player won the face-off. You can do that. So it's pretty cool software, but that was all new to me. I spent a lot of time, I grew up on computers. I'd done, just for fun, like some sort of like video editing projects, like on my computer, just as a hobby, as that kind of stuff. But this was new to me. I'd say one of the things that appealed to the organization, now remember this is 2014, so this is kind of right around previous summer, that summer, next summer, a lot of teams were going out and hiring sort of analytics people. It was that was really booming in hockey, that I came in with background in math, an understanding of data analysis, that I wasn't brought in to be, an analytics expert by any means, but a little bit of a person and someone who could be sort of embedded with the coaching staff that could explain some of the numbers. And when they did come up, when sometimes it would start as simple as, hey, I was reading the Washington Post and they said that our Corsi was this. What's that mean? Like, can you explain that to me? And every guy's on a different level. Some coaches I think everybody nowadays has a pretty okay level of understanding. But even just 6-7 years ago, there was a lot of coaches who really didn't have a huge grasp on what some of these terms were. But they're smart enough people. They've been around hockey for decades that you explain, it's just, okay. Like, they can totally contextualize what it's showing. They just don't know the term for it. Or they just don't use the term for it. I mean, these guys have been, the idea that coaches are anti-analytics is kind of funny to me, and anti-data, because every coach in the league is married to scoring chance data and wants to know how many chances they're giving up and wants to know how many goals they should, like, they may look at it and use slightly different terminology than you'll see among sort of more pure math people and analysis people, but everybody wants the same data.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Now, when you talk about Corsi, how would you explain Corsi? Because I know a lot of people out there have listened and heard it on, a broadcast, or heard a coach talk in a conference and you mentioned Corsi, or a player mentions Corsi. I mean, even out here, like, you'll do a skill session with 7 players and they'll joke around about a guy ragging the puck on the wall, and then somebody will yell, it gets a shot on net, like, that'll help your Corsi, like, kind of jokes, right? But if you had to explain it kind of layman's terms to somebody, what's the easiest way to explain what a Corsi is? What is that?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, you can pretty much just say shot attempts for, shot attempts. So that there's a couple of different ways it's kind of contextualized. It can be a raw number. Like, it can start as, like, your Corsi 4 could be, okay, when you were on the ice, your team had 10 shot attempts that game. So Corsi 4 would be 10. And let's say the other team had 5. So of course the against would be 5. Now you could have, or you could now, what a lot of people do is turn that into a percentage. If you've had 10 of the 15, that's 2/3, so 66.7%. Now 50% is kind of a baseline. That means, you're break even. When you're on the ice, your team gets as many shot attempts as the other team.
Right.
In a perfect world, you want to be above that. If you're a player that can consistently be 55, 56% of the shot attempts when you're on the ice, it gives some level of suggestion that you're, it's used as kind of a proxy for possession, because you obviously can't shoot the puck if you don't have the puck. So is it perfect? No, not by any means. Are there other numbers out there that, yeah. And now with player tracking, puck tracking, we can start to get, actual data on possession time. That's something that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have. We couldn't say, well, Patrick Kane has the puck on his stick for a minute 31 this game or whatever. You just have to, okay, well, when he was on the ice, they got 14 shot attempts and only gave up 3. That's probably pretty good.
Right.
But with that said, like I do hear players joke about, hey, why'd you shoot that? Just getting my Corsi out, like whatever. They kind of joke about it. And to their point, it doesn't account for shot quality. I'd rather have 3 point blank slot one-timers rather than 7, muffins from the point.
Right.
You're probably going to get more out of the 3 than the 7, but on aggregate, it's going to start to balance out a little bit most of the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point too. You're right. Like a lot of people, especially older school or coaches that are labeled old school coaches, like, oh, they're not into data. But if you're behind the scenes, behind the curtain in the coach's office or the war room, they're talking about scoring chances all the time. They're talking about which line combinations work best together, which line combinations create the most, how does they manipulate their lineup. And a lot of times they're doing that on field, but man, you've been behind there. Like a lot of times they're manipulating the lines strictly on numbers, strictly on this player gets more chances when he's with this centerman. This winger is way better, when he's with this pairing of center and wingers. So like there's a lot of that goes into just even creating lineups sometimes, right?
Absolutely. When I started again, it's crazy how much things have changed in a short amount of time. Like you said, it was feel. It's people that have been coaching for decades, have been around the game for decades, and they come in after the first period and the conversation, well, who's going tonight? Or what's wrong with this guy? Like, he's not going. Like, we got to bump this guy up, get him more minutes. Or third line's flying. Like, let's play them more. Let's play. And it was feel, but you'd find that more often than not, like it's feel, but it's just a wealth of experience that allows you to internalize what you're seeing, the data basically, and just collect it in your head. And this line's flying tonight probably translates to something positive in terms of certain analytics. And not always. There are discrepancies, but just in that half-decade time, now it's, you get data now. You have data between periods of which lines are playing well or not well, or which players are playing well and not well. That I wouldn't say a coach necessarily sees some data and that's 100%, this line doesn't work. The data, they're red, they're not green. Like, we got to break them up. That's not always the case. Yeah. But I think when a coach kind of comes in and is frustrated with his top line, and then the data also says they've been bad, it makes him a little more confident to make a switch quicker. Whereas in the past, maybe you'd stick with it the whole game or you'd stick with it another period versus now it's, like, I'm not just imagining things, because I think every coach has their biases and every coach has players that for whatever reason they naturally tend to like a little bit more or a little bit less. There's certain guys that no matter what they do, you always see their faults and they just drive you crazy. Yeah. And there's certain guys that get a free pass, it seems like, or an easier road. It's just certain guys are sort of coaches guys and certain guys aren't. And this helps kind of eliminate some of those preconceived notions and level the playing field a little bit, which is important.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, 100%. It definitely can help the players a little bit too, just on backing them up that they are better than maybe what they're showing on the ice, or they're creating more scoring chances, or they're have more puck possession or more in zone time or whatever that is. Now, when you look at kind of moving and kind of the whole process of going from Washington to over to Seattle and looking at, obviously you were in the trenches the last bunch of years during a regular season. I know this year's a little bit different, but one thing I was amazed at when I was involved with the NHL club a lot more in the last couple of years was how busy the schedule is, right? You always hear about this, but like having 2 practice days in a row is rare. You know, you may get that once or a couple times throughout the year, but not very often. It's a travel day, it's a practice day, it's a game day, back-to-back games, or you know, 2 games in 3 nights. And it is a demanding schedule. Now that's for the players to play in, but for you and the coaching staff, I mean, you guys are pre-scouting games. You know what I mean? I remember being in there and just listening to you as a coaching staff saying, all right, so-and-so is going to pre-scout this game. You've got this game. You've got this game. You've got this game. How busy is that as far as, you know, you've got 11 games in a month sometimes or 12 games in a month to be able to have all those pre-scouts ready. And for people who don't know, pre-scout is if you're playing, like you said earlier, if you're playing San Jose, you've got a package on them as far as the power play, the penalty kill, the breakouts, their tendencies, all that stuff. And then usually that pre-scout is going to be delivered to the coaching staff, and then it's going to be delivered to the team, kind of cut it up a little bit for the team. But how demanding is that in a regular season as far as just, man, being caught up and being up to speed? Like, do you feel like you're ever caught up, or is it not till the final game where you're like, okay?
It's a grind. Like you said, there's not a lot of gaps in the schedule where you can kind of catch your breath and say, okay, I got 3 days here between games, and I can catch up on a little bit of sleep. I can catch up on a little bit of doing my taxes, which I still need to do. Actually, that's a good reminder. Those of you American viewers, at least, get your taxes in here coming up. A bit of a PSA. It's tough. I mean, I think you want to be as prepared as you can, but it's tough because the video never ends. Like, you know, I like to look at other sports to kind of see what I can steal, because other sports are doing cool stuff, and what can I do? And, you know, when I look at college football, for example, the teams will talk, we watched every Alabama game this season in preparation of our bowl game. And because there's 12 of them or whatever, and that's manageable and that's feasible. It would be ludicrous for me to go into game 73 and say, like, I want to watch every Vegas game from this year. Right. Like, it's just there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough time in the year for me to do that for every team. Yeah. I can't watch 1,300 games. Nobody can. So you have to pick and choose. And I think when I was first starting out, what was really tough for me is figuring out when to say, okay, enough's enough. You know, for every time you pre-scout a team, you watch the 3 games they've played most prior to you. And does that tell you everything about them? No, it doesn't, because there's 45, there's 79 other games they're going to play. So you're trying to extrapolate based on that. Okay, here's the basic structure, because most teams aren't going to change their neutral zone forecheck or their D zone coverage on a game-to-game or even week-to-week basis. Most teams aren't even changing it too significantly on a season-long basis. Like, their neutral zone forecheck is kind of their neutral zone forecheck from training camp till playoffs. That's not to say there aren't tweaks and adjustments, but the base look of it usually stays consistent. Now, some teams do make switches and coaching change. Whenever a coaching change happens, that's kind of a green light. Hey, next time we see these guys, we got to be extra on our toes, because they might look completely different, and we can't go in thinking it's going to be the same team we've seen the last 6 years under the same coach. But just kind of knowing that there are diminishing returns. If I watch 3 games, I'm going to get a lot of value out of that. If I watch a 4th game, I'll get a little bit more value, but not as much as that difference from 1 to 2 games. And if I go to 10 games, it's going to be continually less and less extra value. And the other thing is, those extra 7 games I'm watching there is time I can't spend doing other stuff, whether work or just important things like getting a chance to eat or exercise or sleep or things that make us function as humans. But it's tough. I think a lot of organizations important. Like, we have these calendars on Excel that have, at the beginning of the year, we put our whole schedule in there, and we literally map out, okay, when we're playing on the 12th, this team, they also play on the 10th, the 9th, and the 5th. Oh, okay. And you kind of get a matrix of, and you see, and some days you kind of roll your eyes, you go, oh my God, there's 6 games on Wednesday that we need to watch. But odds are, because most teams, you can't play 3-3 in the NHL. Most you can play back to that. If you have 6 games on Wednesday, probably your Tuesday and your Thursday are a little bit lighter. Right. So it kind of balances out in the wash. But yeah, there are days on the schedule where you go, oh my God, we're playing tonight, and there's 6 other games we need to be watching. Not all tonight. Yeah. Because one of the games is for, 9 days down the road, but we're going to have to watch it. We're going to have to divvy it up. And it's very much a divide and conquer sort of thing where we split it up. And, some people might think it's every coach watches no, there's just not enough hours, and it's not an efficient use of our time. That it's, well, I'm going to watch the Philly games, you watch the Pittsburgh game, and then based on what I see, I'm going to present that to the coaching staff. So we're all on the same page, and I'm going to present more information than we give in just a meeting to the players. Like, it's a bigger version of the scout, so we're really clear on them. But not every coach is necessarily going to watch 8 hours of game footage on Philly for every game just because you're playing 3 and 4. When are you going to squeeze that in?
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Yeah, it can be overwhelming for sure. But like you said, the more organized you are, like anything, then obviously you can keep that workflow a little bit smoother and kind of keep your sanity about you, I'm sure. Now, in the role that you had, I know in Washington, I'm sure with depending on coaching staff and stuff with Seattle, it'll probably be similar. But even as you and Stretch, and for those who don't know Stretch is Brett Leonhardt, who's been there for a bunch of years, and he's kind of their number one in Washington. But you guys, I don't want to say it's unique because I'm sure other teams do it. But you guys had the opportunity to present pre-scouts to the players and go through video sessions. And you guys were kind of putting them together, showing them to the coaches, and then sitting in the theater room with all the team and delivering the package. And I'll be honest, the couple of I've had a chance to sit in on a number of presentations, obviously in a bunch of years. But I was so impressed and just how you flow through it and how and kind of a couple jokes here, a couple jokes there. And it's so, the thing with the video session, for those who have never been in an NHL video session, it's so quick. Now the players know for the most part the lingo. They're up to speed with, like, you say 1, 2, 2 on this side, boom, they know what's going on. Hey, panic, you got to trap, or you got to squeeze off on this side. They get it, right? But for anybody coming in from the outside, it's like, what? Like, it sounds like a different language, right? What was it like the first time that you had to present? So when this came out, that or coaching staff probably talked and said, hey, listen, Tim, I'd like you to, why don't you do the pre-scout tomorrow? Why don't you do the presentation on goal scoring or whatever it is to the group? What was that first presentation? I don't know if you remembered it or not, because I'll give a quick little story, but I remember the first time I went up, a couple of years ago now, and Todd Reardon was the coach, and he's like, Blazer, I want you to run a couple of drills with the group just to kind of warm up, and then we'll go through practice. I'm like, yeah, no problem, whatever. I had a couple of drills drawn up, and then showed it to the coaching staff. Like, yeah, no, it's great. Puck's here, puck's there. You guys do this. Okay, great. And then I remember going to the board, or the whiteboard, and just kind of just really quickly, just showing it quick. And I remember turning around and looking down, and there's like, Ovechkin, and there's Kuznetsov, and I'm like, what am I doing? It's almost like a bit of an out, like that's when like the armpit starts sweating a little bit. I'm like, wait, I do this every day, all the time. This is a totally different beast here because I got a whole team of guys, but it was very like, yeah, it checked me real quick, right? So what was it like for you going into your first video session with the team?
Yeah, I had the butterflies going hard. It was a pre-scout at home versus Arizona, I remember. And at the time, we always did the penalty kill scout first, and then the 5-on-5 scout, which is the one I was doing right afterward. So Lane Lambert was running the PK at the time in Washington. He did his normal PK scout, and the guys are just kind of saying, normal. Guys get a little bit more amped up in Washington for a Pittsburgh game or a Philly game, divisional rival kind of thing. It's Arizona, not to disrespect, but it's just not the same emotional intensity at 9:15 in the morning for Arizona cross conference game on a Tuesday or whatever. Like, it's just, energy's pretty low, and Lane finishes what I'm sure was a great scout on who's doing what, how they're entering the zone, how they're looking to attack in the zone. And Barry got up and just said, doing today's scout, and he just called me up, and the guys didn't know it was coming, and that got a rise out of them.
They would have loved it, man.
And hollers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that was, I don't know if that helped or hurt in retrospect, because I definitely, the whole meeting, I probably pounded like 3 water bottles just sitting there. And now I probably have to pee, and I got the jittery hand, and I'm holding the remote, and they're like, hey, that laser is going everywhere. It's just because, like you said, I'm looking around. There's Alex Ovechkin. He's got 9 Rocket Richards and a couple MVPs, and you got Olympians from 7 different countries, and you got Vezina winner. Like, you got a Jack Adams winner right behind you over your shoulder. Like, there's a lot of talent in that room, and people that I used to just watch on TV and sort of look up to and admire their skill and ability. That it's kind of surreal. Like, I'm going to stand here with a laser and tell Alex Ovechkin what I want him to do tonight. Like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I can't imagine going to a golf course and telling, hey, Tiger, like, let's drop that show. Like, it just seems ridiculous. Like, you're talking about some of the best players in the world, and being entrusted with coming up with a plan and delivering it to them. So I probably talked so fast and I think I blacked out and it was like, I hope that went well. I probably practiced it like 30 times the night before, just going over it like it was a PhD defense or something.
Yeah.
Because this was, but I think it went well. I think we won the game. I'd have to go back and check. If we didn't, let's just assume we did.
We're saying that. Yeah, don't give a date. We won't give a date on this, and we won. Yeah.
As long as we've won a game against Arizona in the last decade, we should be okay. I think, right?
Yeah, you're good.
But it was total butterflies, and the second time I did it, same thing. And after that, it kind of normalized. I'd say after the second or third time, it was kind of, it's never normal. You always kind of look around and pinch yourself. And, it kind of, I remember last year at trade deadline, went out and traded for Ilya Kovalchuk, like, future Hall of Famer, like first over, like this guy, and he's an older player that I was still in grade school when he was, coming into the league and scoring 50 goals in Atlanta, that I remember watching this guy and all of that it's kind of, not to say you're starstruck, but you go, that's Ilya Kovalchuk sitting in the front of the video room. Like, like who would have thought?
Yeah.
Those little reminders, and you kind of not pinch yourself, but you kind of, like, pretty crazy.
It is. That's one thing about the hockey community overall, though. And I say this as far as just being pretty, if you prove yourself, and that could be through hard work, your knowledge of the game, whatever it is, right? And you gain a little bit of that respect from the coaching staff and the players. It is really impressive how embracive and how supportive they are, right? Like, I remember one training camp, they asked me to do a presentation to the guys about some skill stuff we were going to do. And I'd never done it in the theater room and these were just prospects, mind you. So, but even still, man, I was nervous, and I was like, I saw, you present probably, and somebody else who was smooth and just buttery and everything was like, I'm like, oh my, and I felt like mine was chopped liver, but it is nerve wracking. And then especially like for you, you've watched numerous presentations from really like Lane Lambert and Trotz and these guys that have done it for years and years and years are smooth. They can, if they mess up, they can pick it up in a second and no one even notices, And so, yeah. And then now watching you, like, the last couple of years doing it, it's like, you're one of those guys now, like, and how much more comfortable I'm sure that you got over the years. And I was going to ask you the question basically was, do you enjoy doing them now? Like, do you enjoy kind of doing that and having that little bit of couple minutes of just having that inner, cause it is kind of cool to be the guy that has the plan and you're not basically telling Ovi or whoever, like, you got to be here, but you're basically giving them ideas of what's going to happen in the game. This is what the other team's going to do. And this is how we can counter it. This is what we did really good last game. This is how we kind of, counter what they did, whatever it is. Right. So you kind of giving them options and letting them see the visuals of it. But do you enjoy doing them now? Like, is it something that's kind of like, you kind of look forward to now?
It is. It's a fun way. Like, it's a fun way for me to get involved. Like, I'm not lacing up the skates. I'm not skating around on the ice and impacting the game that way. That this is one of the ways that I feel like I'm able to contribute to the team. And not that there aren't other, every game, multiple coaches contribute for the game, whether it's, one coach is coming up with the PP scout, one with the PK scout, and then I or somebody else are working on the 5-on-5 and the face-off component of the game. And the goalie coach is probably coming up with something for the goalie or the shooters or whatever it may be. But it just gives you a way to feel like you're really a part of it. And that's such a big part of hockey and being in the locker room and all that, is everybody wants to be part of the group. And I think, like you said, like once you're in and once you've earned that trust, you're in, and the guys kind of welcome you in with open arms and are extremely supportive. Like, and they'll cheer for the dumbest things, like like your mouse will stop working or whatever right before the meeting, and you're scrambling and you're like, oh my god, like the mouse isn't gonna work, and you finally just realize you got to unplug and replay. And guys will give you a standing ovation because you got the mouse work, just like the silliest stuff, but. With kind of a lot of days feeling kind of like Groundhog Day, like, okay, here's the PK scout, here's the 5, that just those little moments to break it up with a little bit of humor or levity go a long way. And it is fun to do. And it's, I also enjoy working with, getting to talk to guys one-on-one. Both, I find it really valuable for me because you get to learn more about their personality and you get to learn more about how they process information. Because when you're presenting a scout to a group of 23 players, let's say, not everybody's going to process that the same. 'Same. Like, I've been around certain players that you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them one video clip, and they would process it 1 second later. And you could show them and they get it. Like, they just operate on such a high level. They've got such a high hockey IQ that you don't even have to talk through it. Okay, that's what they're doing. I know how to beat that. Like, they're just on that level. And there's other guys that kind of need the kid gloves a little bit of, okay, here's what they're doing. Let's ignore the other team here. Let's just look at this guy. And you kind of walk through it twice, and then you say, okay, now based on that, here's what you're going to do. And it's got to be much more of a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing you learn. You start talking to guys, you start checking in with, hey, like, was that thing I was saying about their D zone, did that make sense to you? And maybe that, because guys are intimidated. It's no different than being in middle school. Like, a lot of people don't want to raise their hand and ask the teacher, hey, not sure I understood that. Because you're not sure if you're thinking the other 22 guys in the room all got it, and you're a young rookie from Europe and maybe English isn't your first language, that's an intimidating spot to be put in. That I find they're much more likely to tell you in that one-on-one smaller setting, like, hey, no, I didn't really understand what you were saying about their D zone. And then, okay, let me get the whiteboard, or let me get my lap. Let's run through this again. And now they understand better, and now you've earned some of their trust too. And guess what? The next time they don't understand something, if they still don't feel comfortable in that group setting, kind of saying it, they do feel, hey, can I grab you before the game? Can you just run over? Can you run over all the face-offs again? I just want to make sure my routes are right, because it goes quick. Like, you just went over 8 different face-off plans in 2 minutes. And for some guys, no big deal. And other guys, I got to see that 3 more times.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I think with the one thing too, with the role that you were in, and even the role that I was in as kind of a skills coach, I'm not taking ice time away. I'm not going to trade them. I'm not renegotiating their contract, right? So for you, I know from myself personally, just speaking personally, like, you could have a different conversation with them, and they would tend to open up a little bit sometimes where they wouldn't maybe want to tell the head coach, like, I don't understand any of that, right? Whereas for you, that, like, hey, I don't get it, man. And then you can help them, and then that gets them on the same page as the team, a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Hopefully they have more success on the ice. I agree. It's kind of a fun role to be in, where you can kind of be that middle guy a little bit, where you can kind of develop those relationships with the players where they do trust you, and they know you're not trying to sewer them. You're not trying to go run to the coach and let them know you've got their back. You're there to help them. And I think it's awesome. It's great as a player. I remember even when I was a player, having that assistant coach or that, strength coach or whoever that you can kind of confide in. And it tends to be a lot of times now, probably a lot of the video coaches, as well as, you see a lot of times guys hanging out with the trainers, or, you know what I mean? You walk in the trainer's room and they're getting taped up, and it's a full on conversation about what they did last night or whatever. That's kind of tends to be the safe zone sometimes in a lot of teams. Right. But I think for guys in your role too, I think it's huge to be that buffer for them sometimes. And especially, like you said, like, some of these, I couldn't imagine being in Russia, understanding a little bit of Russian, and then trying to, like, digest hockey lingo on top of that, and in a quick pace that, so yeah, it's so nice to have that buffer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cool position to be in, because you get to play a little bit of the good guy role.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, I'm not telling a guy he's healthy scratch tonight. I'm not telling a guy, hey, you're going back down to the minors. Like, those are the tough conversations that head coaches have to sometimes be the bearer of bad news. And that's not so much, sometimes I have to, whack the guys in a pre-scout and say, hey, like, we were absolute junk in our D zone last game, and our effort, like, look at these 4 clips. Like,
right.
Is this effort? Is this getting in shot? Like, sometimes you have to go negative with the clips, but that's a very different conversation than, hey, your wife and 3 kids are moving across the country. Good luck.
Yeah.
Shake my hand and get out of here. Yeah. It's a different scale. But I do find that guys will sometimes view me as just, hey, like, I'm not getting much ice time. Like, are you hearing anything? Like, what are they upset with me? Because I think it isn't, you don't want to necessarily go to the head coach every time your ice time drops 3 minutes and, hey, maybe you're afraid of being labeled high maintenance, or maybe maybe you just don't have a great relationship with everybody on the staff to begin with, that you find someone you trust, and hey, like, and maybe it's, they're really not happy with your PK, and it's okay. Well, at least I know what I can work on now, because when you have 20 some guys floating around, not everything that's communicated in the coach's room gets one-to-one communicated to each player. And anytime you can kind of help fill those gaps in, helps everybody. At the same time, you don't want to, the last thing I want to do is go out there and mingle with the guys in the training room. And they go, hey, like, how come I'm not in tonight? And you go, well, yeah, the coach is screwing you. Like, I think you should be on the first line. And these guys don't know what they're like.
Yeah.
You're all on the same team here. So you got to make sure you're not stabbing anyone in the back. But anytime you can just kind of, guys, young players these days, like, they just want information. They just want to know what's going on. And if they're not in the lineup, they're not playing, they're not getting, tell me why.
Yeah.
Like, tell me, okay, if I'm going down to the minors, what do you want me to do? You want me to get better defensively? Do you want me to produce more? Do you want me to win more faceoffs? Like, tell me what it is so I at least know what I'm being judged upon and I can kind of improve on those criteria. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think, and as a player, that is huge to have somebody that, whether it's an assistant coach or a video coach or somebody like yourself that you can go to and talk to and just say, listen, like, what are you hearing? Like, what's going on? What are they not happy with? And you can say, like, man, your D zone's not good. You're just not tight on the wall. So just keep tightening that up. Don't even worry about, because I think a lot of players, their ice time gets diminished and they're like, I got to get more points. I got to get more. I got to score more. And no, man, you just got to get the puck off the wall to a guy so you can get out of the zone. That's all they care about. Don't worry about scoring. And some of the best advice I ever got from coaches or assistant coaches, like, don't worry about getting points. Don't worry about scoring. Just like be strong on faceoffs or be strong in the D zone or whatever it is. And the rest of it will come. But having someone that you can go ask that to and not feel like you're going to get, because you know as well as I do, if you go to the wrong assistant coach or you go to the head coach, sometimes that head coach or assistant coach will come back and like, this guy's a mess. He's every day he asks me the same thing. He's mentally out of it. Like, whatever happens after that happens. But you know what I mean? Like, so you want to make sure as a player too, sometimes as much as you can talk to I've got an open door policy. Like, yeah, kind of, but I don't really want to burn my bridge here,
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think, like you just said, I think too many young players especially evaluate their game purely on offense.
Yeah.
And you ask them, how were you tonight? And they say, had a goal. That's not what I asked you. I didn't say, what was your stat line? I said, how were you? Like, I've seen plenty of players score a goal and be junk. You got a fluky bounce or you're good on one shift, but what about the other 18 minutes you played? Like, you did nothing.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you, how were you? I haven't scored in 3 games. Well, you've executed 100% of your wall plays and you've had no turnovers with the offensive. Like, you've been good. Like, the points will come. You're a skilled player. It's coming. You hit 3 posts, like half an inch this way. And, you're talking about third star of the week. Like, it's that fine a difference. Like, but the wall plays and, executing your breakouts, those are stuff that you do every night. Unless you're Austin Matthews right now or you're Ovi or whatever, you don't expect to score every night. Like, nobody in the league can do that. Maybe Connor McDavid can put up 2 points a night, but like most guys, at the end of the year, you have your 25, 35 points. But if you're 90% on your breakouts, every GM in the league is going to be calling your agent, trying to get you on their team. And those are stuff that, you don't have a point every night, but you're going to have multiple chances every game to break the puck out of your zone or to execute a wall play to get the puck out of your zone or execute a PK clear, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But those are really the foundational keys that I think not enough young players especially realize they need to evaluate themselves on, because that's what scouts are looking at. That's what coaches are looking at. It's those little things in the details.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I think this starts even in like minor hockey where, especially as players get into those like scoutable years, you talk about their draft year to the OHL or junior or the USHL or whatever it is. And they're so concerned about, putting up numbers. And I understand that's a big part of it, but to your point, like, especially when you get to the pro ranks and get to the AHL, some of these players at the AHL level don't understand that they're not looking for you to be like, they've got their Ovechkins, they've got their McDavids, they got their first top 6 guys, man. If you could find a role in that bottom 6 and be really good at it, and you're going to play in the league for a long, long, long time. You know what I mean? And I mean, a good example of that is a guy like Travis Boyd, who's in Toronto right now. And it kind of was in and out, played a pretty good role, was getting, actually put up pretty good points for the amount of minutes he played overall in the NHL, really. But, it was kind of like, went through some ups and downs, thought he, had a little bit of lit up the AHL and thought he should just get a chance to play in the NHL forever. And now I've been watching Toronto a little bit and he's playing really well. He's back checking hard. He's playing both ends of the rink really well. He's getting some, he's contributing offensively a little bit as well, but he's on the second unit power play now. But, it's one of those things where, man, and he's been doing this for a long time, just trying to become a legit, a mainstay in the NHL and just trying to find that niche and getting an opportunity, obviously, getting some coaches that love you and that have room for you too. Some teams are stacked, some teams it's hard to play on, but But sticking with it, and then trying to really focus on those little things, being good on draws, knowing your roles, and good along the wall, and all that kind of stuff. I think is huge for sure, and it starts at young ages, definitely.
I think he's a great example because he's a skilled player. He's a guy that growing up, I'm sure, was the best player on his team, and was a big player at University of Minnesota, and then over a point per game in the minor, point per game type guy in the minor leagues. That he's a skilled guy, and I give him a lot of kudos because he evolved his role. He's got to learn how to penalty kill, or he's got to have some versatility. That he's got to learn how to play both on the wing and in the middle, taking faceoffs, winning wall plays, and he's a guy that you see him working on tips, going to the net, like doing things that he was probably more of a perimeter player growing up because he didn't have to, he could just outskill guys, I'm sure, when he was playing high school hockey in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And now at the NHL level, unless you're Connor McDavid, unless you're one of these elite speed, skill kind of guys, you can't just walk around the exterior of the ice and make things happen. Matt Barzal you got to get to the dirty areas. You got to take a hit to make a play, and he's the guy that's kind of evolved his game to, kudos to him. And how am I not surprised that a guy in Ontario is watching the Leafs?
That's all we got, buddy. We don't get any other feeds up here. With this Northern Division, they just shut off all the other feeds to any other NHL game. No, it's been almost NHL overload, man. There's been so many games on. It's been pretty cool. I know it's a grind for the players and the staff for sure. Do you think in your role, and I won't keep you much longer because I really appreciate you giving me the time today. This has been awesome. But do you think that this year is more of a grind on the video side, or is it a little bit less of a grind because you're playing a lot of the same teams over? Like, would it be, would this be not, and I know it's a crazy schedule, so there's still a lot of travel and you're playing every second night for the most part, but would it be a little bit, I don't want to say easier, that's kind of a tough word, but more, simpler as far as the fact that you are seeing a lot of the same teams over and over?
I think in terms of the pure video workflow, it'd probably be a little simpler. If you're in the North Division, for example, you only play 6 other teams the whole year, right?
Yeah.
Versus in a normal year, you got to scout 30 teams, and next year it'll be 31 different teams. But just in terms of your workload that way, it's different. And so from that sense, I think I think what it is it's more a game of adjustments now.
Right.
Like everybody's played everybody, and like you talk about the North, everybody's seen each other multiple times. Nobody's surprised when they see Montreal's forecheck or Diesel. It's okay. Knowing what we know, how do we beat that? It's a little bit more playoff style hockey where maybe you go into game 1 and people are a little bit timid. By the time you get to game 2 or 3, secrets are kind of off the table. It's more, okay, well, who's going to execute? Because so much of the game is execution. And the number of times I read articles or tweet or whatever, well, why did this guy, well, it wasn't what he was trying to do. He just didn't execute. It wasn't that they didn't know. Well, why'd they leave Ovechkin open for that power play one time?
Right.
Well, they have one fewer person, and they're trying to execute a game plan, and it didn't work. But it's not like they didn't know the shot was coming. Like, you read the sarcastic comment, who would have thought you should have covered Ovechkin? Yeah, they knew. Everybody's aware he's got 700-plus goals, and 300 of them are from right there. But I think from that sense, it's a little bit easier because you're not necessarily worried about scouting as many teams or as many games. But I think and I've talked to some of the guys, some of my counterparts around the leagues and people, I think the mental component is tougher this year.
For sure.
COVID's, it's an issue, and just the way you're able to interact with people. A lot of the meetings now have to be done over Zoom and, streamed out.
Yeah.
That you can't have that personal. I think it's invaluable to be able to sit in the video room and look and make eye contact with a player when you're showing him a point, or tap him on the shoulder after. Hey, did that make sense to you? Or, hey, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. I know there's a couple negative clips in you there, and I think you and I would both agree you were no good last game, but still love you, man. We're still in this together, and you lose kind of those little moments. I think that's what makes it tough. And then just the trips being different lengths. I think especially in the North Division where, it's, Vancouver over to Montreal, some of these teams going east to west on these extended road trips, you're away from your family. And, I know guys Derek Stepan separated from his family because of border things. I think the mental part of it is way harder this year. And that goes not just players, but coaches, video trainers, everybody. But in terms of the preparation on the video side, probably a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, that makes sense for
so
sure.
it kind of balances out in the wash.
Yeah, you're right, because there's so many other things that come up with this whole pandemic and the way the divisions are and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
make it challenging for sure. If you had to like, I kind of leave it with this, but if you kind of had to give advice to anybody who's maybe at that 16, 18, 20-year old, maybe going through college or university, and it's like, man, I'd love to be a video coach. You know what I mean? I love the game, and and I guess two-part question, but what advice would you give them when they're watching games? So, for instance, you said when you went to Washington, you had a knowledge, obviously, of Washington. And I'm sure you could probably say some stuff. Well, I think if kind of almost adding some suggestions on what might work better as on the video side or whatever. But, how would you kind of tell young people that want to get into this, how do you watch a game? Because I think a lot of times people focus on the goals and the assists and things like that. And you talked a lot about systems and structure and stuff like that. So should somebody that wants to get into video kind of look at the game a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, watching it, as a fan with your buddies with a drink in your hand at the bar or whatever, and screaming every time your favorite team gets a scoring chance is certainly a different mentality than, sitting on the couch with it, literally get a notepad out, get some rink diagrams and maybe chart some things. Maybe start with one area, like maybe start with a power play or something. Like what kind of routes are they using when they're trying to get in the zone? And I think you'll start to see tendencies if you watch the same team over and over and over. You'll start to see, oh, you know what? They use the same play 50% of the time or 80% of the time. And you start to, once you get a feel for that, whether it's power play or D zone or O zone structure, pick an area and kind of focus on it. I think it's a lot easier to kind of hone in on one area than, try and watch all areas of the game and evaluate individual tendencies. It's a lot to pick up at once. So focus on one area and take notes, maybe draw some diagrams. Don't be afraid to pause, rewind. I mean, that's my biggest friend is pause, rewind. Let me see that again. Let me see that again. And on the third, okay, I see exactly what he did there. And it's not innate, but, over time you start to, okay, I see what he did. And I'm pretty sure I know why he did that.
Yeah.
That you get to the point where you're starting to watch games and you'll start to say to yourself, oh, I'm pretty sure that guy just messed up his route. Like he went the wrong place. Or you say, well, why did he do that? Maybe there's something else. And so once you're kind of comfortable with that one side, look at the other side here. Let's say you've been studying New Jersey's D zone and you've watched a couple of games. Okay, well now look at what other teams. Which team did a team just put 6 on them, or did they just get a shutout? Like, what's the differences in what the offense is doing now? So start to pay attention to those and just kind of be critical. Think critically. Ask yourself good questions and see if you can come up with answers. And then the other thing that's just invaluable is, as much as you can, and I know everyone has different levels of access to different people, but surround yourself with people who know the game. Volunteer. Try and get your foot in the door. Like maybe you're in Ontario and maybe you can work with a local junior team, or local college team, or whatever it may be, or you AAA team. Like people want help. That if you come to them, odds are you go to enough people and say, hey, like, I'd love to help out. I don't know if you guys have video needs or, because a lot of the lower levels, a lot of teams can't afford, don't have a full-time video coach. That's a luxury that the NHL has, the American League has. Your local college team probably doesn't have that. That you say, hey, can I help out filming some games or filming some practices or helping you set up for meeting, whatever it may be. You're a fly on the wall. And now you're learning, you're getting to hear their terminology, you're getting to sit in on things, and that's how you really grow your knowledge.
I love it. No, that's great. That kind of ties into the second part of this question, but what advice would you give to young people that want to get into this, young males and females that want to get into video? And I think that's volunteering and putting in a little bit of time and building up a bit of a portfolio where, I helped out this AAA midget team or AA midget team or Bantam, whatever it is. And then, I ended up jumping into junior and helping out there. And then, because a lot of the people that got to the NHL level, especially years ago, and even now, you look at their resume. I mean, they coached, some junior college somewhere or some junior team somewhere, and then worked their way up, made connections, and then got opportunities from that. You know what I mean? Which is kind of putting the work in, and sometimes you're not going to get paid for it, unfortunately, but you're going to get an opportunity to learn, and if you do love it, it's kind of not really a job at times.
Yeah. And the other thing with the video component too, especially, is the video software can be expensive. Like you might need a nice computer, a nice laptop, not cheap. And then the software itself, like you could be talking about thousands of dollars, but if you're a college kid or a high school kid and this is just kind of something you want, you probably don't have thousands of dollars to invest in a high-end laptop and then a video software and then trying to figure out how to download games. That access to that kind of stuff, like you go to your local, they probably have some sort of video program that they're using to record their games and whatever. And I can tell you on my end, when I have people reach out to me and I see resumes, it's why I work with this video software already. And maybe it's the one I use, maybe it's not. Either way, that's a plus.
Yeah.
This guy or this girl has worked with video before. Oh, they know this software. Like, that's just going to help your learning curve, and it's going to make you more marketable. And it's basically, it's like going to the library. Instead of having to buy the book, you're in it. Like, see if you can link up with a team and volunteer for a few hours here and there and start to learn some software, start to learn the processes. That'll go a long way, I think.
No, that's awesome.
It's one of those things that nobody grows up cutting video when they're in middle school on their computer.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe a decade from now, I'm going to be the old guy on the block that can't find a job because all these middle schoolers are just cutting video on Twitch.
Yeah, exactly.
The breaks.
Yeah, totally. No, buddy, this is awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And do you have any predictions for the Kraken for next season? Do you have any predictions on?
Wow. I'm hoping we're going to be good. I think we're going to be good.
Yeah.
Vegas certainly set the bar high for a first year.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. Like I've seen all sorts of floor plans and renderings of the arena, and it's going to be state of the art. I think having been here, having seen, Seahawks fans, how passionate the fans here are about bringing back the Sonics, like this is an awesome fan base here. And, the season ticket list filled up in like 6 minutes or something
awesome.
Silly. And it's just, I think it's going to be one of the most fun. My prediction is it's going to be one of the best environments in the game, much the same way that Vegas immediately was and is. And I think we're going to be right up there with the Montreals and the MSGs and Chicago's and Vegas. Those are all my favorite places to play.
Cool. Yeah.
Great energy, great atmosphere. And I think people it's going to be on the bucket list for every hockey fan. We got to get to Seattle because what they're doing is special. And hopefully the play on the ice matches that.
No, it's cool. And it's such a cool city too. I think the players will enjoy, hopefully post COVID, they can go for dinner and hang out a little bit. And it's a cool spot to be, obviously too, which would be attractive as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Well, buddy, I wish you the best of luck, man. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And it's always great to catch up with you. And if I can get a little bit better on editing videos, I'll probably drop my resume off. I'll email it over to you. Okay.
That's perfect. You can bring a few new deals over for us.
All right. Sounds good. All right, buddy. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you as well.
All
Take
right.
care.
To kind of raise that bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.